Welcome to another deep dive.
Oh, yeah.
Today, we're heading to the depths of Lake Baikal.
Ooh, Lake
A
Baikal.
place is both stunningly beautiful
Right.
and shrouded in mystery.
Yeah, Lake Baikal is pretty mind-blowing,
Yeah.
even without the mystery. I mean, it's the oldest lake on Earth,
Oh, wow.
the deepest, and it holds a staggering 20%
Oh, my.
of our planet's unfrozen fresh water.
Wow.
And it's teeming with life.
Real.
Species you won't find anywhere else in the world.
So it's a nature lover's paradise.
Oh, yeah.
Got it. But we're not just here for the scenery, right?
No, we're not.
Right.
We're diving into a 1982 incident reported by Soviet military divers.
Okay.
You've got to imagine it's the height of the Cold War. Tensions are running high, and these divers are on a routine training exercise.
Right.
They're expecting the usual challenges of diving in such a deep, frigid lake, but what they encounter is something straight out of a science fiction film.
Hit me with it. What did they see?
They reported seeing a massive metallic disc estimated to be about 100 feet in diameter, moving silently and rapidly at a depth of over 3,000 feet.
3,000 feet.
Just to give you some context, that's deeper than most submarines operate even today.
Really?
What's even more bizarre is that the object wasn't just drifting.
Right.
It was exhibiting what they described as intelligent maneuvers,
Intelligent maneuvers.
moving in ways that defied any known technology at the time.
Hold on. Over 3,000 feet down?
Yeah?
That's crazy. Were they sure about what they saw? I mean, the pressure at those depths can play tricks on your mind.
That's a fair point, but here's the thing. We're not talking about just one diver having a weird experience. Multiple divers corroborated the story, all describing the same massive disc-shaped object, and they all reported seeing a pulsating blue light emanating from it.
Right.
Try to picture that the inky blackness of the deep lake, the bone-chilling cold, and suddenly this massive glowing disc appears out of nowhere.
Wow.
It's enough to make anyone question their sanity.
I'm starting to see why this incident has become such a big deal. So what happened next? Did anyone believe these divers?
Well, the initial response from the Soviet government was classic Cold War secrecy.
Oh, really?
They tried to deny the whole thing, dismissing it as a hallucination or some kind of equipment malfunction. But as evidence mounted, including sonar recordings and underwater photographs, they were forced to acknowledge that something unusual had indeed happened.
Wait, so there are actual photos of this thing. What did they show? And why were they never released to the public?
That's the frustrating part. The details of those recordings and photographs remain classified to this day.
Oh, come on.
The Soviet government did launch an official investigation, but the findings were never made public.
Classic cover-up. That's only going to make people more curious, right? And it definitely feeds into all those theories about what the object could be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Without concrete answers, the speculation runs wild. Some people believe it could have been a secret military prototype, perhaps a new type of submersible being tested by the Soviets, or even a rival nation.
Okay.
This theory is definitely plausible given the Cold War context.
Right. It was basically a free-for-all of espionage back then. But let's be honest. When we talk about unidentified objects in a lake, there's one theory that always pops up.
Oh, absolutely. The alien theory.
Exactly. I mean, the object's description.
Yeah.
The shape, the lights, the silent, rapid movement.
Yeah.
It does kind of fit the classic image of a UFO, doesn't it?
It definitely does. And the fact that it was seen in such a remote and inaccessible location like Lake Baikal only adds to the intrigue.
Okay, so we've got secret military tech and aliens. What other explanations are people throwing around?
Well, some people believe it could have been a relic of a lost civilization. Think about it. Lake Baikal is incredibly old,
Right.
and who knows what kind of civilizations might have risen and fallen in that region throughout history. Maybe this object was some kind of ancient technology that we simply don't understand.
Whoa, that's a cool idea.
Yeah.
I've always been fascinated by those what-if scenarios about lost civilizations.
Yeah.
Are there any other contenders in this explanation showdown?
There are, and they get even more out there. Some people propose the object was evidence of interdimensional travel or even time travel technology.
Time travel.
But those theories are pretty speculative and tough to back up without any hard evidence.
Okay, so we've got a wild mix of possibilities here. Everything from Cold War spies to time travelers. That's quite a range. But where do we go from here? It's been decades since the incident. Has anyone gone back to try and find out what really happened?
Well, the story doesn't end there. Decades later, Lake Baikal is still captivating scientists and researchers, and not just because of this USO incident. Remember, it's a unique environment with an incredible ecosystem. So while some are searching for answers to the 1982 mystery, Others are diving deep for different reasons to study those endemic species, to map the lake bed, and to understand the lake's unique geology.
That makes sense. I mean, even without the USO incident, Lake Baikal is a pretty amazing place. But what about those who are still trying to crack the USO case? What are they doing differently all these years later? You mentioned new technology.
Exactly. Researchers are now using advanced sonar technologies, remotely operated vehicles, ROVs, and even submersibles designed for deep-sea exploration to investigate the lake. These tools allow them to map the lake bed in more detail, collect samples, and potentially identify any anomalies that might be related to the 1982 incident.
So are they basically hoping to stumble upon some piece of wreckage from this mysterious object? Or maybe some other clue that could help us figure out what it was?
You could say that they're looking for anything that could shed light on the event. But Lake Baikal is vast, and its depths are challenging to explore. Plus, we're talking about an incident that happened a long time ago.
Right.
So finding conclusive evidence is a bit like searching for a needle in a very large, very deep haystack.
Got it. So it sounds like there's a lot of work still to be done, but at least there are folks out there actively trying to solve this puzzle. Now, I have to ask, have they actually found anything interesting down there? Any hints of what might have caused the 1982 encounter?
That's where things get really interesting. Well, it's not for lack of trying. They've discovered some interesting things, just not necessarily things directly related to the USO. For instance, they found some unusual rock formations and thermal vents, which are fascinating in their own right, but don't necessarily explain the metallic disk.
Okay, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Like, everyone's hoping for a smoking gun, some
Yeah.
piece of debris, a clear sonar image,
Right.
something definitive,
Uh-huh.
but maybe the answer's more nuanced, or perhaps we're just not asking the right questions.
Exactly. And that's where the limitations of our technology come into play. Take sonar, for example. You might think sonar would be perfect for finding a large metallic object in a lake. And you'd be right in a typical lake anyway.
What's so different about Lake Baikal?
Well, remember that Lake Baikal is a freshwater lake, and a very deep one at that. The unique water properties combined with the depth can affect sonar readings in unpredictable ways. It's not as simple as just sending down a signal and waiting for a clear echo.
Okay, so the sonar is bouncing off all sorts of things down there, making it hard to pick out a specific object. That makes sense.
What about the ROVs and submersibles? Aren't those basically underwater eyes? They should be able to give us a better look, right?
Absolutely. They can provide valuable visual data. But remember, Lake Baikal isn't like your average swimming pool.
Right.
The lake bed is vast, covered in sediment, and the water visibility, while incredibly clear for a lake, isn't infinite. Plus, we're talking about finding something specific that may or may not even still be there.
So you're saying it's possible this object isn't even on the lake bed anymore?
It's certainly a possibility. Think about it if it was some kind of advanced tech, whether terrestrial or extraterrestrial.
Right.
It might have moved on. Or if it was a natural phenomenon we simply didn't understand, it might have dissipated or changed over time.
Okay, so the mystery deepens. You've got a lack of clear evidence, challenging conditions, and the possibility that whatever caused this event might be long gone. I can see why this thing is still unsolved after all these years. It's a tough nut to crack. It really is.
Yeah.
But despite the challenges, there's a real sense of excitement in the scientific community about Lake Baikal. Remember, even if we never find definitive proof of the USO, the research being done there is expanding our understanding of this incredible ecosystem.
Right. We can't forget about all those amazing creatures that call Lake Baikal home. It's not just a place of mystery, it's a biodiversity hotspot.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And the more we learn about the lake's unique environment, the better equipped we'll be to understand any unusual events that occur there, whether they're related to USOs or something else entirely.
Okay, so we've talked about the challenges of exploring Lake Baikal and the ongoing research being done there, but let's get back to the USO incident itself. We've touched on a few theories, but I want to dig deeper into what each possibility really means. Let's start with the idea that it was some kind of secret military technology. What would that tell us about the world back in 1982?
Well, if this object was a top-secret submersible from the Cold War era, it would suggest that the technology at the time was far more advanced than we thought. It would mean that governments were capable of creating underwater vehicles that could reach incredible depths and perform maneuvers that we still can't fully replicate today.
Wow, that's a mind-blowing thought. It's like something out of a James Bond movie, except that it might have actually been real.
Exactly. And it would also highlight the level of secrecy and paranoia that existed during the Cold War. I mean, imagine if a nation had developed this incredible technology but kept it completely under wraps, not even acknowledging its existence until decades later. It speaks volumes about the climate of distrust and the lengths to which nations were willing to go to maintain their strategic advantage.
Okay, so the Cold War tech theory has some pretty big implications. But what if it wasn't a product of our time at all? What if it was something much, much older? Let's talk about the lost civilization idea. What would that kind of discovery mean for our understanding of history?
Now that's where things get really interesting. Imagine for a moment that the object those divers saw was evidence of a technologically advanced civilization that existed centuries or even millennia ago in the region of Lake Baikal.
Okay, I'm imagining it, and I'm getting chills.
Right. It would completely rewrite our understanding of history. We'd have to ask ourselves, who were these people? What level of technology did they possess, and why did their civilization disappear?
Yeah, and how did they manage to create something so advanced that we still can't explain it today? That's a huge question.
Exactly. And finding evidence of such a civilization wouldn't just challenge our understanding of the past, it would force us to rethink our place in the grand scheme of things. It would suggest that we're not the first, and perhaps not even the most advanced civilization to have graced this planet.
Whoa. Okay, so Cold War tech is one thing, but a lost civilization.
Yeah.
That's a whole other level of mind-blowing.
It really is. And it opens up a whole new world of possibilities.
All right, we've covered secret military projects and lost civilizations, but there's one theory we haven't fully explored yet, and it's the one that always gets people buzzing. The alien theory. Let's face it, the idea of a UFO in Lake Baikal is pretty captivating. But what would it really mean if this object turned out to be extraterrestrial?
Well, that's the ultimate game changer, isn't it? Proof of extraterrestrial visitation would be a paradigm shift for humanity.
It would mean we're not alone in the universe? It would change everything.
Absolutely. Imagine the impact on science, religion, philosophy, everything. The discovery of alien technology would force us to reevaluate our understanding of physics engineering and perhaps even the very nature of reality itself.
Okay, let's pause for a second and let that sink in for our listeners. We're talking about a fundamental shift in how we view ourselves and our place in the cosmos. No big deal.
Right. It's a profound thought.
Yeah.
And then there are the societal implications. How would different cultures and governments react to such a discovery? Would it unite us in our shared humanity, or would it create new divisions and conflicts?
I can see it going either way, to be honest. It's both exhilarating and terrifying to think about.
Exactly. The alien theory is both the most exciting and the most daunting possibility. It's a Pandora's box that, once opened, would forever change our world.
All right, I think we've done a pretty good job of unpacking the implications of each theory. Cold War tech, a lost civilization, or aliens. Each possibility is fascinating in its own right and raises more questions than it answers. But let's not lose sight of something crucial here. We're talking about an event that happened over 40 years ago, and we still don't have any conclusive answers. I have to ask, does that ever get frustrating for the researchers involved? I mean, it seems like they're always chasing shadows.
Well, I think it's important to remember that even without definitive answers, the pursuit of knowledge itself is incredibly valuable.
I get that. It's like that saying, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey.
Exactly. And in this case, the journey is leading to some pretty amazing discoveries. Remember, while the USO incident sparked a lot of interest in Lake Baikal, the lake itself is a treasure trove of scientific wonders.
Right, we keep coming back to that. It's like the USO was just the tip of the iceberg, so to speak.
I like that analogy. And it's true. The research being done at Lake Baikal is advancing our understanding of freshwater ecosystems, geology, climate change, and so much more.
So the search for the USO might be a bit of a wild goose chase, but it's also leading to all sorts of other important discoveries. That's a great way to look at it. But I'm curious, for those who are still focused on the USO incident, what are their hopes for the future? Are they optimistic about finding answers?
I think there's a cautious optimism among researchers. They recognize the challenges, but they're also excited about the possibilities. And with new technologies constantly emerging, who knows what breakthroughs might be just around the corner.
So what's next for the Lake Baikal USO investigation? What are the key areas of focus for researchers in the years to come?
Sure.
What are they hoping to achieve?
Well, I think there are a few key areas. Researchers are focusing on. First, they're continuing to develop even more advanced sonar and imaging technologies specifically designed to work in the challenging conditions of Lake Baikal.
So they're basically creating tools tailored to this specific environment.
Right.
To give them a clearer picture of what's down there.
That's right. They're also focusing on analyzing the existing data in new ways. We've collected decades worth of sonar readings, underwater photographs, and even satellite imagery of the lake.
Oh, wow. Satellite imagery. That's interesting. I hadn't even thought of that. What could they possibly see from all the way up there?
Well, you'd be surprised. Satellites equipped with high-resolution cameras and multispectral sensors can actually detect subtle changes in the lake's surface temperature, water clarity, and even vegetation patterns.
So they're looking for anything out of the ordinary, any anomalies that might point to something unusual happening beneath the surface.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And with the advancements in artificial intelligence and machine learning, they can now process and analyze this massive amount of data more efficiently than ever before, potentially uncovering patterns and clues that were previously missed.
Okay, so new technology and new ways of looking at old data, that's promising,
Yeah.
but it still feels like we're talking about finding a needle in a haystack. I mean,
Yeah.
this lake is huge.
It is. But here's another interesting development. Researchers are starting to focus more on the human element of this mystery.
What do you mean by the human element?
Well, remember, this incident involved multiple eyewitness accounts from experienced military divers.
Hmm.
These weren't just random people, they were highly trained professionals operating under stressful conditions.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so they're taking a closer look at the divers' testimonies.
Uh-huh.
I can see how that could be valuable. Especially with all the advancements in psychology and cognitive science, we might be able to gain new insights from those accounts.
Precisely. Researchers are now using techniques from forensic psychology and human factors analysis to re-examine the diver's statements, looking for any subtle details or patterns that might have been overlooked before.
So it's like they're going back to the original source material with fresh eyes and a new set of tools, hoping to find something that was missed the first time around.
That's a great way to put it. They're also interviewing other personnel who might have been involved in the incident or who have knowledge of Soviet military operations in the area at the time.
Trying to piece together a more complete picture of what was going on back then.
Exactly.
Makes sense. I have to admit, a part of me hopes this mystery remains unsolved. There's something alluring about the unknown.
I understand that sentiment. There's a certain romanticism to the idea of a mystery that defies explanation. But I think even if we were to find a definitive explanation for the Lake Baikal USO, it wouldn't necessarily diminish the wonder of it all. Well, think about it. If we discovered that the object was a secret Soviet submersible, it would reveal a level of technological sophistication that was far ahead of its time. It would be a testament to human ingenuity and our ability to push the boundaries of what's possible.
Okay, I see your point. And what if it turned out to be evidence of a lost civilization?
It would rewrite our understanding of history and force us to reconsider our place in the universe. It would suggest that we're not the only intelligent species to have inhabited this planet and that perhaps we're not as unique as we think we are.
Those are some pretty big implications for sure. And what about the alien theory? What if it turns out that those divers really did encounter something from another world?
Well, as we discussed earlier, that would be a truly paradigm-shifting event. It would challenge our most fundamental beliefs about the universe and our place within it. But it would also be an incredible opportunity for learning and growth. It would force us to confront the unknown, to expand our understanding of science and technology, and perhaps even to reconsider our definition of what it means to be human.
So regardless of the answer, the pursuit of knowledge and the exploration of the unknown are inherently valuable in their own right.
Yeah.
I like that perspective.
Yeah.
It reminds us that even if we don't find all the answers, we're still expanding our horizons and pushing the boundaries of human understanding.
Exactly. And the Lake Baikal USO incident is a perfect example of that. It's a mystery that continues to captivate our imagination and inspire us to explore the depths of our world and the vastness of the universe.
Well, on that note, I think it's time for us to surface from this particular deep dive.
Hey.
We've covered a lot of ground today, from the initial incident in 1982 to the ongoing research efforts, the various theories and their implications, and the enduring allure of the unknown. But before we go, I want to leave you with one final thought. As you go about your day, maybe you're commuting to work or taking a walk or just doing the dishes, take a moment to consider the vastness of Lake Baikal, the mysteries it holds, and the possibilities that lie hidden beneath its surface. What do you think is down there? What secrets are waiting to be uncovered? And how might those discoveries change the way we see the world and ourselves? Let those questions linger in your mind and keep that sense of wonder alive.
Beautifully said. And remember, even if we never find all the answers, the journey of exploration is what truly matters.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the mystery of Lake Baikal. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those minds open to the wonders of the unknown.